Hey everybody, welcome back to the Huddle, the Review.com's weekly sports show. I'm Rob Toder, executive editor of the Alliance Review, joined as always by Mike Brown, our sports editor. And Mike, today let's take a look back at a rather dominating performance by the Mount Union Purple Raiders, a 72-17 win over the Widener Pride in a game that wasn't as close as the final score indicated, if that's possible.
I know, Rob. That was just another dominant performance. You know, like we said in the story in the paper this week, Mount can beat you in so many ways. They can beat you with that great defense. They can certainly beat you with Kevin Burke and a tremendous offense. And on Saturday, they got into the special teams, and their special teams are phenomenal too. And they got 2 punt blocks, and really would have had a third. They just smothered the punter for Widener on the last chance. They would have had 3 blocks, but I mean, they just are so good in every facet of the game.
My editorial comment of the week is if Nick Driscoll does not win the Ghilardi Trophy, they might as well just put it away, and because that performance on Saturday, if there was a performance that cemented a trophy-winning season, that was it. Couple block punts, a touchdown on special teams, and just his usual impressive self on defense.
Right, he's had a great season. I don't know of an off game the guy's had. I mean, he was really at the top of it on Saturday. I mean, when you do that, you have 2 block punts, 1 for a touchdown, and play the great defense as he always does. I mean, you can't ask for any more than that.
Well, now this week the competition steps up a little bit. Mary Hardin Baylor comes in; they're undefeated. Another impressive win over Wesley, 32-20 in their quarterfinal round matchup, and really the last team to beat Mount Union at Mount Union in the playoffs 8 years ago, believe it or not, in 2004. So what do we expect out of the crew?
Well, I tell you what, I think this is a game that quietly everybody's when we saw the brackets, when the brackets came out a few weeks ago, and we saw that these two were on the same side of the bracket, and we thought they're going to meet in the semifinals, and here they are. 2 high-scoring offenses. I think the edge Mount has here is Mount has the lights-out defense where Mary Hardin Baylor's given up a few points this year. So, you know, Mary Hardin Baylor, if I'm them, and you're traveling all the way from Belton, Texas to here, they're probably going to have to bring their A game on defense to hang with this potent Mount Union offense.
You anticipate a high-scoring game? Because I think they've got the speed maybe that can hang with the Raiders.
Yeah, I think they can. I think this will be a good game for a while. You know, again, my pick all along has been Mount Union. I just think they're just so dominant in every area this year. But I think this could be probably the best game along the way. You know, you don't know what, if they get by this week, what the Stag Bowl is going to bring a week from now. But, as far as comparative results, these are the 2 teams, when you look at their scores every week, they really stand out.
Yeah, and to our friends in Belton who did the podcast that I watched on Saturday, it's the Mount Union Purple Raiders, not the Purple Red Raiders. Don't confuse them with Texas Tech, okay? The other semifinal is St. Thomas from Minnesota and Wisconsin Oshkosh. And Mount Union fans are familiar with Oshkosh because Mount played them the last 2 years in the regular season and won both of those games, of course. But Oshkosh knocked off supposedly the overall #1 seed in Linfield in overtime, and so that's going to be an interesting game as well.
Right, and that Wisconsin conference is outstanding. Along with the OAC, that's probably been the dominant conference the last 5 years in the nation in D3. And once again, here's Oshkosh. They're in the national semifinals, and I wouldn't be at all surprised in the Stag Bowl in a week if it's not Oshkosh and Mount Union meeting.
Okay. Now, high school football wrapped up this week with 6 state championships over at Canton and Massillon. Any thoughts on those games?
Boy, there were some great games. I watched some of those games. I felt for Kirtland to lose a game 10-9 is really difficult. I mean, when you come that far and you've had such a great season, to lose a game by a point, you always look back and say, well, if I would have done this or if I would have done that, just something different. Where sometimes it's better to get blown out, but what a great season they had. And like I've said, Tiger Laverty, one of the greatest young coaches in Ohio, could coach at any level, and he got them there. And then obviously a great D1 game. Cincinnati Moeller, the pride is back there with Cincinnati Moeller. I mean, when you think all those great teams they had back in the 70s and 80s, and now they're back on top in big school Ohio high school football.
Yeah, I was interested in that Clarksville, Clinton, Massey, and St. Clairsville game in D4, 2 high-scoring offenses, and they didn't disappoint. That was an entertaining game as well, though. So what do we see for 2013 high school football? What's the prediction?
Well, I think next year we'll be back up. I think overall it was a little bit of a down year this year. I think it was an in-between year where we had a lot of young teams. Next year we're going to have a lot of veteran teams. The Alliance Aviators are going to be one of those teams. I mean, they really came on toward the end of this year. And I think Marlington, because they have the program established with Ed Miley, will be good. West Branch is coming along under new head coach. Sebring was young this year. We'll have some key players back. Joey Duckworth comes back at Louisville. They should be a factor next year. Yeah. And Minerva's always, they have a good tradition there too. So I think, and obviously St. Tom too. Coach Bud's done a great job there building a program. So, I think there's a lot to look forward to next year.
Yeah. One thing we want to mention is just because football season is ended, I know we started the show with football. But because football, we're going to continue this throughout the winter. We're going to talk about basketball each week. We'll have a show about wrestling each week, so make sure you check in with that. And, of course, great coverage from Mike and his staff in the sports pages of the Alliance Review each week. So we invite you to check back at thereview.com for the weekly Huddle show, and also check out the print pages of the Alliance Review for the greatest high school coverage in the area. This is Rob Toder and Mike Brown saying thanks for watching, and we look forward to talking to you next week.